Sometimes, the hardest part of faith is praying for something and hearing nothing back. You pray, you wait, you hope, but days pass, months pass, and sometimes even years pass, while life stays painfully silent. And slowly, a dangerous thought begins growing inside your heart. Maybe God ignored me. Maybe you know that feeling. The feeling of crying during prayer while nothing changes. The feeling of begging God for peace, for healing, for direction, while heaven feels quiet. And maybe tonight, your faith feels tired, not because you stopped believing in God, but because waiting has exhausted your heart. But listen carefully. God has never ignored a single prayer you prayed. Not one tear, not one sleepless night, not one silent cry hidden behind your smile. The Bible says, "The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them." Psalm 34:17. He hears them, even the prayers you whispered quietly, even the prayers spoken through tears, even the prayers you were too broken to explain with words. God heard all of it. The problem is, people often mistake silence for absence, but just because God is quiet does not mean He is gone. Sometimes God works in ways you cannot immediately see. Sometimes He protects you through delays. Sometimes He changes your heart before changing your situation. And sometimes He prepares blessings slowly because timing matters. The truth is, God sees the full picture, while we only see the present pain. You may see rejection, but God sees protection. You may see delay, but God sees preparation. You may see silence, but God sees a process that is shaping your future. And maybe right now, God is doing something deeper inside you, teaching patience, building faith, strengthening your spirit. Because real faith is not trusting God only when life feels good. Real faith is continuing to pray, even when answers take time. The hardest prayers are often the ones that change us the most. Maybe tonight, you feel emotionally exhausted. Maybe part of you wants to stop praying altogether. But don't quit now, because God is still listening, even in silence. He is still working behind the scenes. One day, you will understand why certain doors stayed closed, why certain answers were delayed, why certain painful seasons were necessary. And when that day comes, you will realize God never abandoned you for a second. So keep praying. Keep trusting Jesus, even when life feels uncertain, even when emotions feel heavy, even when heaven feels quiet, because God has never ignored your prayers, and He never will. Maybe the greatest battle in your life is not happening around you, but inside your mind. Nobody sees it. The overthinking, the fear, the anxiety, the silent pressure you carry every single day. You smile around people, but deep inside, your thoughts never rest. And some nights, your mind becomes so loud you don't even know how to explain what you're feeling anymore. Maybe you know that feeling. The feeling of being emotionally exhausted while pretending everything is fine. The feeling of fighting invisible battles nobody understands. And the dangerous part is, mental battles slowly change people. They steal peace, they steal motivation, they steal joy, and eventually, they can even steal faith. That is why the enemy attacks the mind first. Because once fear controls your thoughts, it starts controlling your life. Fear makes people overthink. Overthinking creates anxiety. Anxiety creates paralysis. And slowly, people stop living the life God created for them. But listen carefully tonight. You do not have to believe every thought inside your mind. Some thoughts are lies. Some fears are illusions. Some voices inside your head were never sent by God. The Bible says, "Do not be anxious about anything," Philippians 4:6. Notice, God never said life would be easy, but He did say you do not have to carry fear alone. The problem is many people pray for peace while feeding anxiety every day. They constantly consume negativity, constantly compare themselves to others, constantly replay painful memories, and then wonder why their spirit feels heavy. Your mind becomes what you feed it. That is why protecting your peace matters. Not every voice deserves your attention. Not every fear deserves your energy. Not every thought deserves your belief. Sometimes, you need silence. You need prayer. You need distance from things destroying your spirit. Because God never created you to live imprisoned by fear. You were created to walk with faith. Yes, the battle inside your mind is real, but so is the power of God. And maybe tonight, Jesus is asking you to stop fighting this battle alone, to stop carrying every burden silently, to stop letting fear speak louder than faith. Because peace does not come from controlling everything. Peace comes from trusting God even when life feels uncertain. So tonight, breathe deeply, pray honestly, and give the battle inside your mind to Jesus. Because God is stronger than the fear exhausting your soul. The battle inside your mind is dangerous because nobody else can see it. People only see your face. They don't see the overthinking, the stress, the silent panic attacks, the nights you lie awake fighting thoughts you never talk about. And sometimes, your own mind becomes your worst enemy. One negative thought turns into fear. Fear turns into anxiety, and anxiety slowly steals your peace. That is why so many people look okay outside, while secretly falling apart inside. Maybe that's you right now, trying to stay strong, while mentally exhausted, trying to smile, while your thoughts keep drowning you. But listen carefully. God never created you to live controlled by fear. The enemy wants your mind tired, distracted, anxious, because a distracted mind struggles to hear God clearly. That's why protecting your peace is spiritual warfare. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every fear speaks truth. Sometimes your mind lies to you. It tells you, you're failing, you're alone, nothing will change. But God says, I am with you. And that changes everything. Because peace does not begin when life becomes perfect. Peace begins the moment you trust God more than your fear. So tonight, stop carrying every battle alone. Give your anxiety to Jesus. Give your overthinking to God. Give your exhausted mind to the one who created it. Because even now, while you are silently struggling, God is still holding you together. Most people are not physically tired anymore. They are mentally exhausted. Their mind never rests. Even during quiet moments, their thoughts keep running, thinking about the future, regretting the past, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not becoming enough. And slowly, the mind becomes a prison. The dangerous thing about overthinking
God
is
is closer
it
than you
creates
think,
problems
even in
that
the
don't
nights
even
you feel
exist
alone.
yet. That is why
Jesus
fear
is still
destroys
beside
peace so
you.
quickly.
He saw the
because
tears,
fear keeps people
the
living in
stress,
imaginary
the silent
pain.
battles
But Jesus
inside your
never told
mind.
people to live
And even
controlled
when
by
life
fear.
feels heavy,
He said,
God has not
"Come to
forgotten
me,
you. All who
so
are
stop
weary
believing
and
the
burdened,
lie that
and
you're
I will
alone,
give you rest."
because sometimes
God
Matthew
is closest
11,
during the
28.
moments you feel weakest.
Rest tonight.
Not pressure.
Be still. Not
Pray
panic.
quietly.
Not
And
constant
remember,
anxiety. Jesus never left
rest.
your side. And maybe tonight, God is trying to pull your exhausted mind back into peace. Not every battle needs your control. Not every future problem needs your fear. Some things must simply be placed into God's hands. Because there comes a point where overthinking stops helping and starts destroying you. That is why prayer matters. Prayer quiets the noise. Prayer reminds the soul God is still in control. So tonight, stop carrying every burden alone. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let Jesus hold the battle your mind is too tired to fight anymore. Some people are slowly destroying themselves without realizing it. Not with drugs, not with violence, but with constant negative thinking. Every day, their mind repeats the same fears. What if I fail? What if nothing changes? What if I'm not enough? And after hearing those thoughts long enough, they begin believing them. That is how fear traps people. It convinces them to doubt themselves, doubt their future, and eventually, doubt God. But your thoughts are not always the truth. Sometimes your mind speaks from pain, not reality. That is why you must be careful what you allow to live inside your spirit, because darkness grows where peace is neglected. And maybe lately, your soul has been starving for peace. Too much noise, too much stress, too much pressure. But God never created your mind to carry the weight of the entire world. Some burdens were meant to be surrendered. The Bible says, "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." 1 Peter 5:7. Think about that. God is not asking you to carry everything alone. He is asking you to trust him with the battles destroying your peace. So tonight, stop believing every fearful thought. Be still, pray honestly, and let Jesus calm the storm inside your mind. Because peace is still possible, even after everything you've been through.